When you understand what it really means to be a high-value woman, you realize that strength isn't about raising your voice, it's about knowing your worth. The truth is, attention that has to be begged for was never meant for you, and the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, tells the world whether they should listen or dismiss you. This is not about arrogance, it's about clarity, confidence, and the kind of presence that demands respect without asking for it. High-value women don't chase attention because they know attention that's forced is hollow. They choose to speak with purpose, and that purpose makes people lean in without them having to reach out. When a woman understands her worth, she no longer feels the urge to prove it to every single person she meets, because she knows that her value isn't determined by how much applause she gets or how many eyes are watching her. Instead, her value is revealed in the way she carries herself, in the way she handles moments of silence, and in the way she speaks only when she has something worth saying. People notice when someone doesn't compete for attention, because in a world where everyone is shouting, the person who remains calm and clear becomes magnetic. This is the power of a high-value woman. Her words aren't scattered in desperation, they are intentional, and people lean in because they feel the weight of those words. She doesn't run after recognition because she knows recognition that has to be begged for never lasts. It disappears the moment the novelty wears off. Instead, she seeks to add meaning to conversations, and when she speaks, people sense authenticity. Attention that is earned through authenticity feels different than attention that is begged for because it's rooted in respect, not pity or obligation. A high-value woman understands this distinction deeply, and that's why she doesn't compromise her voice to be liked or lower her standards to be noticed. She refuses to dilute herself, and that refusal makes her stand out. It's not that she doesn't enjoy being noticed, it's that she refuses to build her worth on it. Begging for attention creates an exhausting cycle of dependency where a woman's confidence rises and falls based on who approves of her in the moment. But when she steps out of that cycle, she discovers her power. She speaks with purpose, not because she wants people to hear her, but because she knows what she says has value. That shift changes everything. People no longer feel like they're being pressured into listening. They choose to listen, and that choice makes the connection stronger. The difference between seeking attention and drawing attention lies in intent. When a woman chases attention, she gives away her control, placing her self-worth in the hands of others. When she speaks with purpose, she retains her power, and the attention she receives is a natural byproduct of her confidence. People are drawn to her not because she's the loudest or the most dramatic, but because she has clarity. Clarity is attractive because it shows that a person knows who they are and where they stand. A high-value woman doesn't need to justify her voice or beg anyone to validate it, and that makes her presence undeniable. She knows that silence can be more powerful than noise. She doesn't jump into every conversation just to fill the room. She waits until she has something meaningful to contribute. And when she does, her words carry weight. The people around her lean in because they know she isn't speaking just to be seen. She's speaking because it matters. That restraint, that intentionality builds trust. And trust is far more valuable than shallow attention. By choosing not to beg, she sets the standard. She shows others how she expects to be treated, not through arguments or demands, but through her actions. Her refusal to settle for empty attention teaches people to meet her at her level, and those who can't naturally drift away. It's not about pushing people out. It's about knowing that the right people will recognize her value without her having to chase them. The strength of a high-value woman is not in competing for space, but in creating her own. She knows she doesn't have to run after people to keep their focus, because the ones who see her worth will always make the choice to listen. This is why she speaks with purpose, why her clarity is magnetic, and why her presence demands respect without her ever having to ask for it. Clarity is their strength. When they speak, they don't cloud their words with apologies or over-explanations. They state what they mean and let silence do the rest because clarity cuts through the noise better than shouting ever could. A high-value woman understands that her words are powerful only when they are intentional. She doesn't fill space with unnecessary chatter, and she doesn't soften her voice just to make others feel comfortable. She knows that people often lose respect when they sense hesitation in someone's words, so she removes the clutter and delivers her message with directness. This isn't about being harsh or cold, it's about being precise, and precision in communication makes people take her seriously. Clarity is magnetic because people are constantly surrounded by confusion, mixed signals, and half-truths, so when someone shows up with a straightforward message, they immediately stand out. When she speaks, she doesn't dilute her thoughts with endless explanations to justify her perspective. She trusts her truth to stand on its own. Over-explaining is a subtle form of begging for acceptance. It's trying to convince people to agree instead of simply sharing your stance. A high-value woman doesn't fall into that trap. She speaks, she pauses, and she lets the silence do the heavy lifting. Silence after clarity is powerful because it forces people to process what was just said, and in that processing, they recognize the strength of the message. People who lack clarity often fill every second with words because they fear being misunderstood, but in doing so, they actually weaken their presence. A high-value woman does the opposite. She trusts that her meaning will land because she chose her words with purpose. Clarity also protects her boundaries. By speaking directly, she avoids miscommunication and ensures that people know exactly where she stands. This prevents manipulation because vagueness leaves room for others to twist words, but clear communication closes those gaps. She doesn't say yes when she means no, and she doesn't soften her boundaries with phrases that invite negotiation. She says no, and it is understood. That kind of clarity commands respect because it shows she values her time and her energy. People may not always like her answer, but they will respect it because there is no confusion about where she stands. Her strength isn't about raising her voice or trying to dominate the conversation. It's about grounding herself in confidence so that her words carry weight without extra force. Clarity isn't loud, but it is undeniable. When she speaks with confidence and certainty, people instinctively pay attention. They may not agree, but they cannot ignore her. This is the essence of strength through clarity. It shifts the power dynamic from trying to be heard to knowing that you will be heard because your words cut through distractions. In relationships, clarity makes her unshakable. She doesn't leave people guessing about what she wants, what she needs, or what she will not tolerate. She communicates with honesty, and that honesty creates stability. Those who value her appreciate it because it eliminates games and second guessing. Those who don't value her find themselves uncomfortable because they cannot manipulate someone who speaks directly. Either way, clarity reveals the truth about people, and a high-value woman prefers truth over comfort. Clarity also builds trust. People trust those who say what they mean and mean what they say. In a world where many hide behind vague promises or empty words, a woman who communicates directly becomes rare, and rarity is respected. Her strength is not only in how she carries herself, but in how she communicates in a way that leaves no doubt about who she is. Her words and her actions align, and that alignment is the foundation of credibility. Even in conflict, she relies on clarity rather than chaos. She doesn't resort to shouting or dramatics. She speaks her truth plainly and firmly. That calm confidence is often more disarming than aggression because it shows control. People are more likely to back down or listen when someone is steady and clear because it leaves no room for escalation. Clarity is control, and control is strength. This is why high-value women do not chase attention with noise, because they understand that real strength is revealed in precision. Their clarity makes them memorable, their silence after speaking makes them respected, and their confidence in their message makes them unshakable. Strength isn't in being aggressive, it's in being steady. A high-value woman doesn't try to overpower the room, she grounds it. Her strength is felt in the way she stands firm in her values without needing validation. Real strength is never about who can speak the loudest or demand the most attention. It is about presence, about the quiet confidence that cannot be shaken no matter what situation she finds herself in. People often confuse aggression with power, but aggression is insecurity disguised as dominance, while steadiness is certainty that doesn't need to be proven. A high-value woman embodies that steadiness because she knows who she is and what she stands for, and that self-awareness is what makes her unshakable in the face of pressure. She doesn't need to argue to prove her point, because her actions speak louder than any raised voice ever could. Aggression pushes people away. Steadiness draws them closer because people crave stability. When others are overwhelmed by chaos or uncertainty, she becomes the grounding presence that people instinctively look to. This doesn't mean she never feels emotions or never experiences doubt. It means she refuses to let those emotions control how she shows up. That discipline, that calm strength becomes a magnet for respect because steadiness is rare in a world where most people are constantly reacting. Her strength is revealed in her ability to say no without guilt, to set a boundary without needing to explain it 100 times, and to walk away from situations that don't honor her worth. She doesn't shout about her independence. She lives it quietly and consistently. Her values are not negotiable, and that unwavering stance sends a clear message about who she is. People quickly learn that she cannot be swayed by pressure or manipulation, and that consistency makes her trustworthy. Trust and respect go hand in hand, and a woman who embodies steadiness gains both effortlessly. There is a natural authority that comes from a steady presence. She doesn't compete to control the room, but people notice her anyway because she radiates composure. In conversations, she doesn't rush to fill silence. She doesn't scramble to win approval. She simply holds her space, and by doing so, she shifts the energy around her. Steadiness doesn't demand respect, it inspires it because people recognize strength when they see it, especially the kind of strength that doesn't need to be performed. Her steadiness also means she knows when not to react. In moments of conflict, when tempers rise, she doesn't add fuel to the fire. She stays calm, and her calmness disarms others. Instead of escalating situations, she diffuses them, and that ability to maintain control in high-pressure moments is one of the greatest signs of strength. Aggression may win short-term battles, but steadiness builds long-term respect. People remember the one who stayed composed because composure is rare. A high-value woman doesn't need validation to affirm her strength because she already validates herself. She doesn't measure her worth by how many people clap for her or agree with her. She measures it by how well she stays aligned with her values. That alignment is her anchor, and it is what makes her strong. While others bend to fit into every situation or opinion, she remains grounded in who she is, and that groundedness is what makes her impossible to diminish. Strength through steadiness is not about being unfeeling, it is about being centered. She can show compassion without being taken advantage of. She can be kind without being weak, and she can stand her ground without needing to become aggressive. This balance between firmness and grace is what sets her apart, because most people lean too far in one direction. She knows that true strength isn't about domination, it's about control, and the person who controls herself always has the advantage. The world may mistake loudness for power, but the truth is, the strongest person in the room is often the one who doesn't need to prove it. A high-value woman understands this, and that's why her steadiness speaks louder than any display of aggression ever could. Respect follows when you speak with conviction. People can sense when you value yourself, and the ones who truly matter respond to that energy. The ones who don't will fade out because they cannot manipulate what they cannot control. Conviction is not about being stubborn, it is about speaking from a place of self-respect, where your words match your values and your tone communicates certainty without needing aggression. When a woman carries herself with that level of conviction, people know immediately that she is not someone who will bend just to please or shrink just to fit in. She creates an atmosphere where her voice matters, not because she forces it, but because her certainty leaves no room for dismissal. People are naturally drawn to conviction because it signals confidence, and confidence is rare in a world where many people are unsure of themselves. When she speaks with conviction, it sends a clear message that she knows her worth, she knows what she stands for, and she is not afraid to communicate it. That kind of energy commands respect because it demonstrates strength and self-awareness. Those who value her presence are inspired to rise to her level, while those who seek to exploit weakness quickly lose interest because there is no opening for manipulation. Conviction acts as both a shield and a magnet, protecting her from people who mean her harm and attracting those who respect her. A high-value woman doesn't try to convince people to believe her, she simply states her truth and lets others decide for themselves. That ability to release the need for approval is where her power lies. Conviction doesn't beg, it declares. When she speaks, she doesn't lace her words with apologies or hesitation, because she understands that every time she downplays her voice, she teaches others to downplay it too. Instead, she affirms her words with confidence, and over time, people learn that when she speaks, she should be taken seriously. Respect isn't built through charm or performance, it's built through consistency. And conviction provides that consistency. People may not always like what she says, but they respect her because she is clear, firm, and unwavering. In a world where many shift their opinions to match the crowd, someone who speaks with conviction is rare, and rarity is always valued. Her refusal to dilute her truth becomes a standard for how others interact with her, and it creates a foundation of respect that doesn't need to be negotiated. This doesn't mean she is rigid or closed-minded. It means that when she believes in something, she communicates it with strength. She can listen to others, consider different perspectives, and still hold firm to her values without being swayed by pressure. That balance between openness and conviction makes her influence even stronger because people see that her stance is rooted in thought, not ego. Conviction without arrogance is powerful because it leaves no space for games or manipulation. It simply establishes presence. Her conviction also communicates to others that her boundaries are real. When she says no, people hear it as final, not as an invitation to negotiate. When she states what she wants, people know she means it, not that she is secretly waiting for approval. That level of directness commands respect because it eliminates uncertainty. People may test boundaries with someone who speaks weakly, but they won't test someone whose conviction leaves no cracks. Those who cannot control her will naturally fall away because manipulation requires uncertainty and conviction removes it. This is why people who rely on power plays or control tactics find themselves frustrated around a high-value woman who speaks with conviction. They cannot twist her words, they cannot guilt her into submission, and they cannot intimidate her into silence. She refuses to give them the leverage they seek, and in doing so, she protects her peace and her dignity. The respect she earns from conviction also impacts the quality of relationships she attracts. The right people recognize her strength and align with it, while the wrong people reveal themselves by retreating. This process is not a loss, it is a filter, ensuring that the only people who remain are those who value her voice and her worth. In this way, conviction doesn't just demand respect, it preserves it, because it ensures that her circle is filled with those who recognize her strength and contribute to it rather than those who drain it. Respect follows naturally when someone communicates with certainty, and a woman who understands this doesn't need to beg for recognition. She knows that her conviction speaks louder than any attempt to please ever could. A high-value woman's voice is her boundary, Her clarity makes her impossible to ignore, and her strength makes her impossible to diminish. She doesn't beg to be heard. She commands it simply by being rooted in who she is. When a woman knows that her voice carries weight, she no longer feels the pressure to raise it just to be noticed. She understands that her words don't need to compete with noise because their depth will always cut through distraction. She doesn't waste time repeating herself to those who refuse to listen because she recognizes that not everyone is worthy of her energy. Instead, she speaks once with clarity and certainty, and those who respect her hear her the first time. That discipline of not chasing after attention transforms her presence because people begin to realize that when she chooses to speak, it's worth listening. Her voice acts as a boundary because it sets the standard for how she allows others to treat her. When she communicates, she does it in a way that is both firm and respectful, which leaves no room for doubt. She doesn't allow her tone to be undermined by guilt or desperation because she knows that those who matter will recognize her words for what they are. In this way, her voice protects her. It shields her from being taken advantage of because people understand that she is not someone who can be easily swayed or silenced. She doesn't argue endlessly to prove her point. She states her truth and allows others to decide how to handle it, but what she never does is compromise her own values for the sake of keeping peace. Her clarity makes her impossible to ignore. In a world where many speak in circles, trying to soften their truths with disclaimers, she speaks directly. She doesn't lace her sentences with apologies for existing or fear of rejection. She trusts that her honesty is valuable. People who hear her may not always agree, but they cannot pretend they don't understand her because she leaves no room for confusion. That directness is a form of strength because clarity demands accountability. Those around her can't manipulate her words or pretend they didn't know what she meant, because she speaks in a way that makes her position undeniable. Her strength makes her impossible to diminish, because she refuses to let external voices decide the value of her own. Criticism, rejection, or disapproval don't silence her, because she knows her worth doesn't fluctuate based on the reactions of others. When people try to minimize her, she doesn't shrink. She stays grounded. She understands that others' discomfort with her strength has nothing to do with her and everything to do with them. This mindset allows her to remain steady even when others attempt to challenge her voice. Instead of collapsing under pressure, she grows firmer, and that steadiness makes people respect her even more. What makes her voice so powerful is not just the words she speaks, but the energy behind them. She believes what she says, and that belief is what gives her words weight. Conviction cannot be faked, and people instinctively know when someone truly stands behind their own message. That authenticity is what makes her voice command attention without force. She doesn't need to beg to be heard, because authenticity has a way of drawing people in naturally. Even silence from a woman with this kind of presence feels loud because people are attuned to the possibility of her words. A high-value woman understands that speaking is not about quantity, but about quality. She doesn't fill the air with noise just to be part of the conversation. She chooses her moments carefully. That intentionality makes people notice her even more because she is not trying to dominate the space. She is adding value to it. And when she adds value, people remember her words long after they are spoken. Her restraint is just as powerful as her speech because both are rooted in discipline. Her voice isn't about control over others, it's about control over herself. By using her voice as a boundary, she teaches people how to interact with her. By using clarity, she prevents misunderstanding. By using strength, she ensures that no one can take away her power. The combination of these qualities creates a presence that is unforgettable. People may come and go, but they never forget a woman who spoke with such certainty that it shifted how they viewed her. She doesn't plead, she doesn't chase, and she doesn't beg to be heard. She knows her voice carries weight, and that knowledge alone is what commands respect.